How's everybody doing? Okay, today we're going to do compatibility of signs, and we are going to do the sign of Pisces and Scorpio. So, fixed water and mutable water. Wow. So now my job is, before I begin, of course, I have to compare this combination with nature. Where do we see well, first let us go to the preliminaries. It is a we're dealing with water and water. That's a trine aspect, 120 degrees. A harmonious aspect, water, Scorpio, and Pisces. So it works. And then you have fixed and you have mutable as modalities, which also works. If it's fixed, it won't work. If it's fixed cardinal, might not work. But if it's fixed mutable, it'll work. Because if one doesn't change, the other one can change around the person that won't change. And therefore can become an orbit around the person who is fixed and won't change. So there is a vehicle, and there's an avenue in which the relationship can work with a fixity mutable. And then of course a mutable and immutable can also work because they can adapt to each other. The negative of that kind of a modality is enmeshment, and one losing himself or herself to the other, and therefore losing their sense of identity and their sense of self. That can happen with your mutable and mutable. That's the only liability. And then you have cardinal and cardinal. Cardinal and cardinal can go either way. It can either work or it might not work. Fixed and fixed, that might be quite of a challenge. That might not work at all. If it does work, best believe that there are other factors in the horoscope and in the individual birth charts that will confer and connote that there will be that kind of exception and that kind of difference in which that kind of modality combination between a fixed and a fixed would work. Cranberry margarita. Delicious. you know, it's my last call. At 4 o'clock in the morning is my last call, and it's about 3:46 in the morning. So I got 14 minutes to go up this bad boy. Well, I can take my time, but I cannot do another drink after 4 o'clock. Kind of like harm reduction. Well, anyway, understand that this combination will naturally fall under the category incompatibility of signs. Hold on, I feel like I'm a little bit too. Oh, look at that! I gotta raise my chair because I feel like I'm shrinking. Wait, I feel like I'm only 5'9", y'all. Now, sometimes I gotta do what I gotta do. You know, you know, I'm not getting that much younger, so I gotta make it a little bit more comfortable for myself. Well, anyway, yes, this combination is falls under the category of compatibility of signs. It does work because there should be no conflict. There should be no irreconcilable differences. If anything, there should be more similarities than there should be differences. Okay, and the first thing that we have to understand concerning this combination is that both of these signs deal in magic. Yes, they deal in magic, whether it's the potent sorcery of Scorpio or the subtle fantasy of Pisces. Either way, both signs are magical. both signs are sorcerers and magicians, whether they know they are or not, whether they practice or not. Just their very presence and their very sense of selves and their determining capabilities and the forcefulness of their egos. Scorpio being subtle, but also being overtly forceful if it has to be. Pisces may not be forceful, but will be a lot more tenacious and hard and headstrong than one would think. So understand that both these signs have tremendous, I hope I'm not really bumping into this, both of these signs have tremendous inner strength, inner power, subtle and also overt or covert reserve. These are signs that are survivors and they stand the test of time. We still have to find some kind of compatibility or some kind of parallel in which this combination fits in nature. Where do we find this combination in nature? Well, since they're both water signs, let's start there. Let's start with the ocean and the ocean currents and the rivers and the lakes and then ultimately the ocean. Where do we find this combination in nature? Well, obviously, you have rivers, which belongs to Scorpio, because rivers are usually fresh water, and lakes, which also belongs to Scorpio, is also fresh water. You have different fishes and different species that exist, have their own ecosystem in fresh water than the ecosystem that you find in salt water, which is usually the open ocean. So having said that, you have two separate psychologies, two separate life worlds even of their own, two separate ecosystems that exist. You merge them together, and what do you got? Well, first of all, we have to detect in nature where we see this merging. And that is very easy to say because, the rivers eventually lead to the ocean, right? So you can say that the rivers, which is symbolized by Scorpio, is the nucleus in which all the veins of the heart or arteries emerge out of from, and then lead towards the rest of the body, which is symbolized by the body of water, which is the ocean, which is Pisces. So the life force or flow of force, because we can say that rivers and rapids are like the veins of the earth, and then the oceans represents the body of Mother Gaia, of Mother Earth. And then the pockets of lakes that exist all throughout the planet, throughout the different regions of the land, can be emotional psychic centers. You know that even though they may seem isolated, they really are not, because you have to understand that lakes, they just don't spring forth on their own. There are usually tunnels and conduits which feeds water into the lakes over eons and eons of years. This is true when we consider aquifers, which is large bodies of water hidden underneath the earth, right? That still falls under Scorpio because it's fresh water. Water that has remained trapped inside the earth due to the last ice age. And that is the source of the drinking water that we as human beings today enjoy. Understand where we are getting that fresh water from. Okay, so this is so in keeping with the philosophy and principle of Scorpio of life sustaining energy and the life force, and also the life force which determines if it's going to continue to live or die. When you don't drink water, you die. You can die in 4 days if you don't have water. You know that, right? You can be dehydrated in 4 days and actually die. Water is life. Water, we come from water. If we believe in Darwinism, which I clearly do. So understand that water is the source of all life. And there is a pulsating nucleus in which this water springs forth, like in the Old Testament, in the book of Genesis, where Moses struck the rock and water sprung forth, you know. And of course, that was a big no-no that Moses did, right? Because he was kind of a stubborn kind of dude, and so Jehovah had to take care of him accordingly. But let me tell you, it's the powers of life and death lies in Scorpio. And Pisces is the life sustaining and also the ending of that force, which begins in Scorpio. And this is the convergence of lakes into rivers and rivers into lakes, and then the rivers flowing from lakes back into the ocean. It is a cycle, just as the wheel of life defines the snake biting its own tail, the symbol of infinity and the continuity of life. This is the embodied principle inherent in Scorpio and Pisces. So we have this as combinations. This is where we find this combination in our planet. When when the Pacific waters meet with the Atlantean waters, especially from the Southern Horn, which is in the tip of South America, where the big bodies of oceans crash and converge. This is Scorpio and Pisces. And when you have that kind of collision, that's when you have the most stormiest of weathers and powerful storms and thunderstorms and weather patterns. When you have fresh water or warm water hitting cold water or a cold front, which then collides and creates an atmosphere which we call hurricanes in the ocean or tornadoes if it's on land. The same thing like Tornado Alley. You have different convergence of winds that come together and they crash. And when they can crash together, they create that cylinder whirlpool, which then gives birth to these tornadoes. This is Scorpio and Pisces. Mutable and fixed air or mutable and fixed water converging and crashing and then creating another force which can be destructive, terrifying, or absolutely beautiful, or both. Now that we've cleared that and put that out there, now we can ascribe this combination to the personality and ego of the people involved in this particular combination. Okay? Pisces and Scorpio, you have to understand. Uh, they have an intimate connection with each other. Okay? They understand each other personally, intimately. Both water signs, they are the most emotional signs of the zodiac. But both of them express it quite differently because Scorpio express as emotional as Scorpio is, and that's something that you will never see openly and that he will never show you. It doesn't mean, excuse me, that he doesn't resonate with intensity. Scorpio hides this vulnerability of emotions by showing the opposite of that same vulnerability of emotion, which is ruthlessness or intensity, where Ooh, you don't want to be near a Scorpio because you get scared because they have this intensity that, like, don't get fucking close, and nobody wants to deal with Scorpio, and they stay away. You know, understand that that's a front and that's a facade on the part of Scorpio. Scorpio is a lot more vulnerable and a lot more emotional than you will ever suspect and ever know. But the ferocity of their intensity is fiery. It's so intense that you will never know it. You'll never feel it. All you will feel is the cold, back off energy of Scorpio, which will make you retreat and won't even allow you or motivate you to look further. And that's the tactic. That's the idea. Scorpio is wound up, tighter than a knot, like I mentioned in my Scorpio videos. But the redeeming quality of this combination is that Pisces is the only, I would say that Pisces is probably the only sign in the zodiac that can disarm Scorpio. Virgo will understand Scorpio, but Virgo will not disarm Scorpio. But Pisces will. Mm. So therefore, for a Scorpio to allow a Pisces in, will already know that she or he will be the one to decode you. And to take that risk of vulnerability of being exposed by a Pisces, because let me tell you, I've told you all, you're not gonna hide shit from a Pisces. Don't fool yourself. It's not gonna happen. She's gonna know you, or he's gonna know you, and more than you know yourself. Please understand that there is no fooling these women or these men, including Scorpio. So if you're going to enter into a relationship with these beings, you're going to have to be very honest with yourself and honest about your intentions if you're going to mess with these motherfuckers. I'm serious. I'm just saying. Both signs can be overwhelming and overwhelm each other with their intense emotions and feelings. This is a strongly intuitive relationship founded on a base of these shared emotional strengths. This couple can be together and not utter a word to each other and still communicate with each other. Fierce. It's like telepathy, but it's not telepathy because telepathy employs the mental apparatus. This is more like emotional telepathy, which is a different faculty than employing the faculties of the mind. That belongs to Aquarius and Libra. Not with Pisces and Scorpio. Their symbiosis and form of telepathic communication is really that of the emotions. It's like they have their pineal glands sticking out and they can communicate with each other. Almost like dolphins communicate with each other in the open ocean. It's kind of like that same analogy. And actually, dolphins communicating with each other, in the ocean. That's another symbol of Scorpio and Pisces. Dolphins is ruled by Pisces. But the intellectual and highly intelligent way that these dolphins communicate, that's a Scorpio mystery. Not even oceanographers or marine biologists know how these dolphins do that. And that's a Scorpio mystery. That right there is another analogy in nature of Scorpio and Pisces. Sure, I take it. It's another analogy. These dolphins are so fucking intelligent, and they lived when the dinosaurs were around. So they've lived like the elephants a long time. Understand the anthropological history between these animals, and also talking astrologically, these astrological forces have employed the same philosophy of old that I'm talking to you today at 21st century. Not much has changed. Yeah, yeah, I'm telling you. I'm telling you. It's crazy, I know. It's crazy. Okay. So understand that Pisces and Scorpio shared intimacy and a sense of emotional depth and profundity that you don't see in any other combination. This falls easily under the compatibility of signs, and it is a trying aspect of these combinations. Okay? You have to understand that Pisces and Scorpio compatibility is based with a mutual understanding, or based on a mutual understanding, and in which um, they can support each other, uh, codepend on each other, uplift each other. Okay. Um, Also, you have to understand that both partners understand that they have a need for solitude. Pisces has a need for solitude and isolation and a sense of detachment. So the Scorpio, they understand this, and there is a need also for Scorpio to have his need of solidarity, or to be solitary, to be secretive from time to time. Okay, and then Scorpio also understands Pisces' need to escape and engage in fantasy and not be a part of a world that seems kind of really harsh. And it almost feels like this is something that the Pisces woman or the Pisces man did not sign up to. So they go into escapism, and that escapism can come in many ways. It can come through drugs, alcohol, or just completely being despondent and not reacting and turning and just shutting down. Now, this can be sort of a liability for the Scorpio man or woman dealing with a Pisces woman who does this. And it can throw people off and cause confusion. But then again, this will more so be the truth if the Pisces woman or man will be dealing with other signs of the zodiac. With Scorpio, there will be a deep understanding and a sense of compassion behind the fact that the Pisces woman may need to do that. Just like she's just as interested and just as understanding Scorpio's need to be away from people and kind of not be bothered by energies and people in which he does not want to deal with. His moodiness is something that the Pisces woman gets and she respects and understands. You know, aside from that, you know, understand that Scorpio is one of the most passionate signs of the zodiac, and Pisces is one of the most romantic. So these two together in the bedroom, which is why I really didn't talk about that, because nothing needs to be said behind that. That in itself is quite obvious. When this couple gets together, there's an immediate sexual attraction and an enduring magnetism that can even last well after the couple has broken up. Yeah. And they can become great friends, great confidence. Because, because there is such interrelatedness and there is such identification and such comfortability with each other, you know, and understand that Scorpio and Pisces may also have a karmic connection with each other. There may be a reason why they are together, which may transcend even the motives of why they are together in this incarnation. And we're done with part one.